right, welcome to two-time Olympian Keith Beavers. Thank you very much for joining the show.
My pleasure.
All right, so I'm going to start off just asking you how everything's going and how's life in the quarantine here with your kids at home?
It's been interesting for sure. Obviously, nothing like this has ever happened in our lifetimes. So it's new and different. I'm obviously out of work and spending full days with both my boys. I've got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. It's a lot of work, but I'm actually enjoying it and looking at it from a positive side. I don't think I'll ever have an opportunity to spend this much time with my kids, probably ever, realistically speaking. So things are going well. My wife is still working, but we're holding down the fort pretty well.
That's awesome, and yeah, I can definitely attest to loving the time with the kids, and I've thought that exact same thing. Like, I don't think we'll ever have an opportunity like this just to be with them 24 hours a day. It'd be crazy,
Yeah.
but I love it. I love it. So I wanted to get right into some of your highest career achievements. So is there any memorable experiences or anything that you can talk to me about? You went to both Athens,
Yep.
in 04 and Beijing in 08.
That's right. Yeah. So it was two very different experiences for me. The Athens Olympics, I had pre-qualified for it already, even going into the trials. I kind of knew what was going to happen before I even went to the trials. And then I had a bit of a disappointing Olympics once I got there. I think I made a number of kind of mental and maybe training errors leading up to the games. I actually hurt myself, slipping on some stairs right about a week and a half before the games. So the whole thing didn't really go as planned. And I ended up, 12th in the 200 backstroke and then 16th in the 400 IM. I ended up being a little bit slower at the Olympics than I was at the trials, which obviously is not what an athlete goes to the Olympics to do. We go to do our best and represent our country to the best of our ability. So that kind of colored my whole experience. Now, the Athens Olympics themselves was fantastic. I mean, it was in the home of the Olympics, and there was a big celebration, and obviously they did a very good job putting it all together. So the experience was good, but of course it's colored by your performance as an athlete. Whereas Beijing, on the other hand, that was very different because I came into the trials not knowing that I was going to make the team. I had to do it. I was injured at the time. I was injured all the way leading up to the Olympics. I had a torn rotator cuff all the way through that year. So I had to kind of manage that. And then the expectations going in were the same, would be to represent my country to the best of my ability. And I swam, it was the best meet of my life, obviously. I set 2 Canadian records. I would have set 3, except Brian Johns swam in the heat before me in the 400 IM. So he stole that one from me. And he still has that record, of course. But I had an amazing experience there. And then obviously Beijing was just wild. They put so much into hosting those games. And I got to say the favorite experience for me in Beijing obviously would have been, getting ready for the walkout before the Olympic final in the men's 200 IM. Just sitting back there with, the 7 other fastest guys on the planet. You're getting ready to do what you do best, and then walking out into that crowd, and there's all these people cheering and screaming. My family's up there. And just the 10 or 15 seconds between when they announced my name, because I was lane 8, so I was the last one to be announced, and when they blew the whistle to get up on the blocks, that was one of the best 10 or 15 seconds of my life, because I just stood there and just took it in and realized, how long it had taken for me to achieve that, and I just really enjoyed myself at that point.
Okay, well, so leading up to all that and stuff too, like, what was a typical training week when you were into your peak performances?
Yeah, so there's kind of 2 answers to that, because I had 2 different coaches from one games to the next. So I originally moved to Waterloo to do my university there, and I trained at the National Training Center with Bud McAllister, who trained Janet Evans. So he was a distance-oriented coach, and so my training with him was a little bit more mileage. So a typical week with him would have been in somewhere in between 65 to 75 kilometers of IM-based training. Quite a lot of like threshold type of training. So getting right to lactate threshold and just trying to hold it there for as long as you possibly could, mixed with a lot of meters and just training myself to be very, very fit. Whereas when I switched to Dean, I stayed in the same location, but they shut down the training center. So I trained with Dean Bowles, and he was a little bit of a different orientation. We focused a lot more on the quality of things. So I did a lot of faster stuff, a little bit less distance. So I would say I was swimming between 55 and 65 kilometers a week. So quite a drop because I was a little bit older. I had more miles on my shoulders, and so it was a little bit friendlier for me that way. But a lot more focus on very, very fast stuff and trying to take advantage of every minute that I had in the pool. So that was kind of my typical week.
So you're a coach now for Queen's University, and I believe you help Kingston Blue Marlins out.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. So can you kind of go into, like all those special moments that you just talked about as an athlete? What are how does it feel similar? How does it feel different being on the other side, out of the pool, watching the swimmers in the water?
Yeah, it's different. It's different being removed from it just that one step, rather than directly experiencing it. But I would say as a coach, experiencing both the highs and the disappointments, it almost feels the same as being the person that actually did that. I'm sure you can sympathize with that, because you've tried to put the work in, and you've tried to work with these athletes and these swimmers achieve what they want to achieve, and then you get to some small part of their success, but you also obviously get to a small part of their defeat and their disappointment as well. So that's one thing that's a little bit similar and different. And then the other thing I realized, and this came early on when I started coaching, because I've been coaching for over 10 years now, which is crazy to me. But the biggest thing for me was learning to recognize in an athlete when they were different from myself, because I had a very finely tuned idea of what I needed to do to swim my best. And that is not the case for everybody. And it is everyone's different little idiosyncrasies and the way they like to go about things is going to be different from person to person to allow them to swim the fastest. So that's the biggest difference for me is learning to listen to a swimmer and to watch a swimmer and figure out, okay, what is their individual need and how can I best address that individual need, rather than me trying to try a top-down approach and say, oh, this is how I did it, so this is how you should do it. Because I don't think that works nearly as well.
I think one thing maybe as a coach, but more so as a swimmer, and I'm sure you still hop in the water and swim the odd time nowadays,
Yeah.
right? Going back to say that time that you were in the water 20 hours a week or whatever it might have been, right? Or more, I gather 20.
Yeah, 20 plus, yeah.
So the swimmers that are kind of doing that now, but need to be out of the water given the situation and stuff too, is there any words of wisdom or advice that you can give them to get them through these tough times?
So the first thing I would say is number one, recognize that everybody is in the same boat. Everyone's doing the same thing, and so the only thing that you can do is control what you can control. So if you're able to control how you're eating, how you're sleeping, what physical activity you get in during the day, how you operate on a routine. These are all things that you would be doing normally when you were swimming, so you might as well carry them on through so that by the time everyone is going back to the pool and everyone can actually get back to their training, then you may have an advantage if you've taken care of yourself really well during this time period. So obviously this is a really unprecedented thing, and it's very hard to manage and deal with. I imagine, especially from a psychological perspective, I know, me being away from work isn't quite the same thing, but I was an elite athlete, and I know what it would feel like if I couldn't train for a very, very long time. You just feel yourself kind of slipping away from everything that you've known. So whatever small pieces of your lifestyle as a swimmer that you can keep in check and maintain as we wait for things to reopen up, do it, because that's probably your best bet at being ready to go when things open up again.
That's awesome. That was just absolutely a wonderful interview here. So thank you so much for your time. Greatly appreciate this. Hopefully a lot of kids on our team and other athletes out there will see your messages here, because I think this is so important. But again, thank you for your time and
You're very welcome.
in this strange period here. So.
All right. Best of luck. Take care.
Thanks.